The night smelled of rain and metal. A siren howled somewhere beyond the diner's glass, distant yet sharp, cutting through the stillness that followed the scream. The crowd stood frozen, eyes darting, hearts stumbling against their ribs, as if the world had slipped a beat. Someone was on the pavement, breath shuddering out in broken whispers. But when the questions came, "What did you see? Who was it?" the answers tangled like wires in the dark. One said a man in a gray coat. Another swore it was a woman with red hair. A third insisted there was no one at all. In that instant, something fractured, not just in memory, but in reality. Every witness remembered a different face. The rain slowed to a whisper, soft against the metal roof of the diner. The investigators' questions had begun to sound more like prayers, desperate, circling the same impossible point. How can 5 people stand in the same light and see 5 different shadows? Inside, the smell of burnt coffee mixed with the metallic tang of blood. Someone whispered that maybe no one attacked at all. That maybe the boy fell. That maybe they'd imagined everything. But then came the sound again, faint and hollow, like footsteps crossing water. Everyone turned toward the door. It didn't move. Still, the sound continued, pacing around the edges of what they thought they knew. Morning comes like an apology, pale and cold. The diner sits sealed behind yellow tape, the world outside moving on as though nothing impossible happened there. But in the evidence room, the air feels heavier. Each testimony reads like a different story told by the same trembling voice. Words overlap, merge, split. Something beneath all of them connects, something unseen, a shape, a rhythm. As the files are laid side by side, the truth seems to shimmer for an instant before slipping away, like the reflection of a face in still water just before it ripples. Every memory begins to fray when replayed too often. The witnesses sit in a line, voices trembling as they try to describe what can't be the same person. One says the suspect's eyes were green, another blue, another black, like holes. The air in the interview room grows thin, heavy with confusion. Every question deepens the fracture. And in that fractured silence, the thought begins to creep in. What if the mind didn't fail them? What if it's the world that did? By nightfall, even the rain seemed uncertain. Falling, stopping, starting again like a skipped heartbeat. The last witness is questioned, but the contradictions multiply. The diner's neon light flickers again in the window, still broken from the night before. Somewhere beneath the static of recorded statements, a faint breath can be heard. Someone speaking who shouldn't exist. The tape distorts, the words collapsing into a single whispered phrase. The detectives lean closer, straining to hear. A chill moves through the room as the whisper resolves into something clear. You all saw me. Memory doesn't play fair. It edits, erases, replaces. Each witness sits alone now, recounting the same moment that refuses to stay still. In every version, the light changes, the voice shifts, the angle bends. One remembers rain. Another, dry air. The same scream arrives at different times. It's like chasing ghosts through mirrors. But the more the stories diverge, the more something hidden begins to align. An invisible thread tightening through all their words. Whatever happened that night wasn't seen. It was felt, and it left fingerprints on the mind instead of the skin. The diner lives again in their stories. Same lights, same smell, same flicker of neon, but never the same faces. Each retelling paints the scene with a new hand, sharper here, blurred there. The rain comes harder or not at all. The figure grows taller or shorter, smiling or running, yet one constant remains. The silence after the scream, that still air just before the world forgot its shape. In that silence, they all remember something watching them. Not from the street, But from the inside, even the strongest minds bend beneath uncertainty. The investigator listens to hours of interviews, replaying them until the words lose meaning. The same sentence spoken 5 times by 5 voices begins to sound like a single mind unraveling. Faces overlap in thought until no distinction remains. The truth becomes noise, patterns in the static, hints between breaths. Somewhere in that confusion lies the answer, or maybe the disease itself. A shared infection of perception, spreading through every recollection that touches it. The investigation shifts focus, no longer chasing a suspect, but chasing the memory itself. Files are compared, timelines redrawn, voices synced against time codes. The picture that emerges is wrong, impossibly so. Each witness remembers the same song playing, though none could have heard it. The jukebox had been broken for years. Somehow, their recollections share a melody that never existed. The past, it seems, can be rewritten when enough minds agree to lie together. When truth begins to rot, it doesn't smell of decay. It smells of fear. The case grows heavier, suffocating those who still believe logic will hold. Each photograph, each statement, pulls them deeper into something that feeds on recollection. One of them dreams of the suspect's face and wakes screaming. Another swears they saw that same face in the hallway mirror. The boundary between the seen and the remembered begins to blur, and none of them notice how perfectly it fits the thing they were never supposed to find. Truth doesn't disappear. It mutates. The evidence begins to contradict itself. Photos change. Transcripts rewrite their own words. What once seemed solid dissolves into noise and reflection. The team argues over details that should never change. Colors, times, even the direction the victim fell. Something unseen is rearranging their certainty, piece by piece. It's as if the story is watching them now, rewriting itself whenever they look away. The more they investigate, the less they remember being certain of anything at all. Every rule of memory begins to collapse. The witnesses start recalling things that never happened. Details that weren't there. Sounds that no one else heard. Even recordings contradict themselves, replaying moments that twist on each review. The team grows quieter, afraid to speak their doubts aloud. The case isn't unraveling anymore. It's consuming them. They are no longer sure what they're solving. An attack, a memory, or a contagion of thought that infects everyone who believes in it. The evidence room grows colder. The hum of fluorescent light becomes unbearable. Too steady, too loud, too alive. Files go missing, then reappear in the wrong order. Names repeat in places they don't belong. At some point, they stop trusting handwriting, voices, even each other. They talk less now, writing notes instead, because the air itself seems to twist their words before they reach another ear. No one says it, but they all know. Something has entered the investigation that doesn't want to be found, because it's already inside. Patterns emerge where they shouldn't. Every piece of data seems to hide the same shape, the same echo. Numbers form faces. Sound waves resemble eyes. Even silence carries a rhythm too deliberate to be random. They try to rationalize it, labeling it coincidence, pareidolia, stress. But deep down, something primal knows better. It's not coincidence, it's presence, the kind that lingers just beyond sight, waiting for you to notice before it notices you back. The final thread snaps quietly. All evidence now loops in circles, every path returning to the same point. A reflection, a recording, a memory of something that shouldn't exist. They've seen too much and understand too little. The investigation has become a mirror maze, and somewhere within it, something watches patiently, learning to wear their faces better than they can. The line between observer and observed dissolves, and for the first time they stop asking who did this, and start whispering, what are we remembering? Sleep becomes dangerous. Every time they close their eyes, they wake with new memories. Moments they never lived, conversations that never happened. The case has turned inward now. Their own recollections twist like broken film reels. Rooms feel smaller. Clocks tick out of rhythm. A deep hum builds beneath the quiet, like the air itself remembering something awful. Files no longer match their handwriting, and even their reflections hesitate a heartbeat before following. The investigation isn't falling apart. It's rewriting them one thought at a time. The precinct feels wrong. Too quiet, too hollow. Desks are left open. Lights hum without rhythm. Somewhere a phone rings endlessly, but no one answers. The case files have changed again. Words replaced. Photos reversed. They can't tell which memories belong to them and which belong to the investigation. The line between witness and investigator dissolves, leaving only one question. Who is remembering who? Logic is abandoned. They stop comparing evidence and start comparing dreams. Every answer found only breeds more questions. The sound of footsteps follows them through empty rooms, and every reflection feels like it's thinking ahead of them. One by one, the team grows quieter, afraid of hearing their own voices echo back wrong. The truth they sought has turned predatory. It feeds on recognition. To look for it is to be seen. Outside, the city keeps moving, unaware of the collapse. Inside the precinct, the clocks stop. Power surges flicker through the rooms, freezing monitors mid-frame. Somewhere between one heartbeat and the next, time itself stutters. For a breathless second, everyone feels weightless, unanchored from their bodies. Then everything resumes, but slightly wrong. The air tastes metallic. The walls seem closer. Every sound has an echo that shouldn't exist. The investigation is no longer about what happened. It's about what's happening to them. They've crossed into the space between remembering and becoming. Each face they sketched, each story they told, now looks back from their dreams. The suspect has no name because it was never a person. It was the moment they stopped agreeing on reality. And once that moment began, it never truly ended. Somewhere, faintly, the diner's neon hum starts again, though no power feeds it. The word "eat" flickers outside an empty window. There comes a moment in every investigation when the mirror turns. No one notices at first. It's just a reflection, nothing more. But then the reflection blinks out of sync. Then it breathes when they don't. The witnesses start to remember each other's faces now, their stories bleeding together. Every line they draw leads back to themselves. The case is no longer about one crime, one night. It's about the fracture that spreads when memory stops obeying truth. Somewhere in the static, something starts calling them by name. They meet again at the diner, the place where everything began. The air feels heavier, like the night itself remembers what they did. Nothing has changed. The same flickering neon, the same broken chair. But everything feels wrong. The windows seem deeper. The light doesn't land where it should. They speak in quiet tones, afraid that every word will echo twice. It's no longer about solving the case. It's about surviving it. The truth now stares from the silverware's reflection, daring them to keep looking. The more they stare, the clearer it becomes. The suspect's face never existed until they remembered it. Each sketch, each testimony, wasn't a record, but a creation. They had given it life. Piece by piece, emotion by emotion. Memory had built something real from fear. Now that fear has found its body. It moves where they move. It looks when they look. And when they blink, it changes just enough to prove it was never theirs alone. The reflection takes shape. Each of them feels its presence, like déjà vu wrapped in dread. They begin to sense what connects them. A shared moment years before, a case buried, a choice forgot. It was never the suspect haunting them. It was the consequence. The mind protects itself by erasing what it cannot forgive. But erasures always leave outlines. Now, the outlines have faces, and the faces have come home. The mirrors no longer lie. Every reflection now shows the same face. The composite that never existed, the ghost they built together. They stop speaking, stop breathing for a moment, realizing that every memory was a rehearsal for this one image. The case is no longer cold, it's eternal. What they feared most wasn't being wrong. It was being the ones who made the wrong real. And as the last light fades, one thought echoes in every mind at once. If everyone remembers a different face, maybe there was never a real one at all. The pieces start to fit, but not in any way that makes sense. Old files reveal names that were never there before, statements rewritten in fresh ink. Every fragment points backward to the same event buried under years of silence. What they called witnesses were survivors of something older, something unfinished. The photographs, the faces, the voices, all echoes of one collective memory trying to remember itself. Time folds in on the moment it all began, dragging them with it. And somewhere, under layers of distortion, the truth starts to breathe again. The deeper they dig, the more they realize the case never began in the diner. It began decades earlier, in another town, under another name. What they found that night wasn't new. It was resurfacing. The same blurred face has appeared before in forgotten police sketches, all destroyed, all redrawn. This wasn't a suspect. It was a pattern, a reflection handed down like a curse, every generation reshaping its features. They're not solving a crime, they're reenacting it. Memory and evidence blur into the same fog. The truth doesn't live in facts anymore. It lives in repetition. Each step retraced feels rehearsed. Every line of dialogue echoes faintly, as though spoken before. The case has become circular, a ritual. And in that repetition, a shape forms. The same street, the same rain, the same scream. Time collapses inward. They aren't uncovering history. They're walking straight back into it. Every secret buried finds its way back to the surface. They retrace the night step by step, discovering their past selves waiting at every corner. What they once dismissed as coincidence now feels deliberate, preordained. The city around them feels like a reconstruction, rebuilt from fragments of memory rather than brick. The truth waits for them at the center, a reflection so perfect it no longer needs to mimic. The reconstruction is complete. Every memory, every error, every face, assembled into a single truth that cannot be unseen. They've been chasing themselves across decades of denial, witnesses to their own unfinished confession. What attacked them that night wasn't a stranger. It was the memory they tried to forget, given shape, given hunger. The face changes because guilt does. And guilt never dies. It adapts. Morning arrives without sound. The case files sit neatly stacked, yet no one remembers closing them. The city hums on, untouched by what has been uncovered. For those who survived, time feels thinner, fragile, stretched across something vast and unseen. The more they try to speak about what happened, the less the words make sense. It's as though the truth resists language, refusing to be remembered. The diner stands empty now, its reflection visible only in puddles. Sometimes, when the light hits just right, you can almost see movement inside. Shadows rearranging themselves into faces no one ever drew. Silence becomes the evidence. There are no suspects left, no witnesses, no truth to prove or disprove. Only the lingering echo of memory refusing to fade. They start to forget each other's faces, one by one. The sketches yellow, then vanish entirely from their folders. The photographs show only empty rooms. The mind cleanses itself, or tries to. But forgetting is its own kind of haunting. When the past erases itself, it leaves behind a hollow so deep, it feels like someone still whispering from inside it. The past folds neatly into itself, seamless as if it never happened. But the reflection remains, a flicker at the edge of the eye, a pause between breaths. The diner reopens months later under a new name, its walls repainted, its story forgotten, yet those who pass by at night sometimes slow their steps, unsure why the place feels familiar. Somewhere in that unease lies what they all felt once, the truth that never needed proof to exist. Memory isn't loyal. It only reflects what it's told to, but sometimes it remembers too much. The case file is closed, officially unsolved, unofficially impossible. The final report reads like a dream transcribed, full of contradictions and vanishing evidence. But in the quiet corners of their lives, each of them still feels it. The pull of that night, the rhythm of the rain, the face they all helped create. The mind doesn't destroy what it fears, it hides it in plain sight. And sometimes, when mirrors catch the wrong kind of light, that hidden thing peers out again. Curious, patient, alive. Nothing truly ends. Some stories just stop being told. The memory of the diner fades, the people scatter, but the face remains, unfinished and eternal. It lives in the gap between what was seen and what was remembered, waiting for someone new to look too closely. Every mirror, every photograph, every puddle holds the potential to begin again. And when it does, it won't need witnesses. It will have believers. The only question left is the one that started it all. If everyone remembers a different face, who was the real one?